Okay, can we get clap sync? 1, 2, 3.
Mason's not here. Oh my god.
Yeah, welcome to another jam-packed episode of the effing Game Pass.
Game Pass? Oh god, you are out of this.
Gamecast. I was thinking game podcast, but one of those syllables dropped off, and then it got replaced with the other. Well, listen, this is our show where we talk about games. It's fine. We can make mistakes like that here.
This is the low stakes one.
Yeah.
The one for all the marbles is...
If we mess up the intro on the other one, that's it.
It's all ogre.
That's all of our viewers. I'm your host, again, Dylan. With me today is Price and Nathan. Mason's not here.
As always, he's not.
Well, sometimes
he's too busy
is.
playing Hot Shots Golf.
I think he did one time and he talked about Hot Shots Golf.
Yeah. I love it. On today's show, we've got some Final Fantasy XIV talk. We've got some other things. I don't know, Tokyo Mirage again. Did you already talk about that, or was that?
Yeah, I did talk about it. I finished it now. It's only been like a handful of days since we last were discussing games, so I haven't really played much else because it's a very big game.
Fair.
But I did finish it last night. I mean, I guess I could go ahead and just jump into it.
Yeah,
so
leap in, buddy.
I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, because I'm definitely going to play it. You totally sold me on it last week.
I think the ending's pretty solid. It ramps up in a ridiculous way.
If it's anything like Persona, it goes completely off the rails and
Can I ask? Are you? So I don't know anything about this game. So real quick, can I ask? Are you a teenage group that inevitably fights God, or its equivalent?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Then we're in. All right.
Yeah, I like 100%. It's like the equivalent to like the devil in the world of Fire Emblem is what you end up fighting at the end.
Is this a Fire Emblem game?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, and this isn't Fire Emblem Engage?
It's Fire Emblem mixed with Persona.
Okay.
I know, and I have not played it. It's bananas.
It's set in Tokyo, in like real world Tokyo, with a bunch of like fresh out of high school teenagers.
Always are.
Gain these mirages as their companions.
Personas, you mean?
Well, they're called mirages in this. But yeah, they gain those characters, which the characters are Fire Emblem characters.
Right.
So it uses like the weapon triangle stuff, but it uses it in a Persona-style combat system, so it's not like a turn-based tactics game.
Gotcha.
And when I say it's Fire Emblem, it is Fire Emblem, but it's like not, boldly that, because it is mostly a game of being pop stars and trying to like just produce like good songs and grow as artists and stuff like that.
Thank goodness. I hate it whenever they get away from the human element and they spend too much time fighting God. And I'm like, maybe I enjoyed my high school life.
And they explain it off as like you have to be a better performer in order to become more powerful in the world.
It's a sense of confidence
and
inner world fighting and symbolism.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean it's a very weird game, but because it's so different, it's also pretty cool. And it's got a lot of references to real world Tokyo as well, to the point to where it's like, I imagine a lot of the Persona games are this way too.
Oh, they take place in like Tokyo.
Or wherever. Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, I've seen people like doing blogs in Tokyo, and the places that they are in are the places that are in this game.
It's pretty cool.
Like, I don't know, whenever I go next year, it'll probably be interesting just to see that in person after having, like, spent, better part of 40 hours walking around in that world. But that's about all I've been playing, other than little piddly phone games.
Piddly phone games? What do you mean? We're in modern day age.
That's me trying to throw some shade.
And who's coming next to the table.
But
I play my phone games on the computer, thank you. Because they're available through Steam.
That's true. That's true. That Snap is. It'd be nice if Heroes was. But yeah, so continue with the Fire Emblem thing. Engage is coming out pretty soon. Or is it already out?
It's out. It's out. I got it in hand, baby.
Oh, okay. Have you played it yet?
No, I've been busy beating the last game that I'm going to talk about here in a moment. So, like, I'm always like Dylan said, I got to finish one game before I go to the next one.
No, as soon as I jump, I immediately will almost never play that game again. I'm looking at you, Horizon 2.
You still haven't beaten that?
No, because I hopped and then I keep
still haven't beaten Horizon 1 yet.
Oh man, Horizon 1. Well, yeah, but that's because you played the game in reverse.
Yeah.
Now you're trying
I went to the end and now I have to work my way back.
Right.
But so with the new Fire Emblem Engage game coming out, Heroes has added in characters from that, and that's one thing I was doing this week, was just getting a hold of all those new characters. But aside from that, I've started playing Cadence of Hyrule, which is the Crypt of the Necrodancer game made using like the world of Hyrule.
Right.
How's that?
I mean, I'm only a few hours in. It is very much a roguelite, and that's always pretty satisfying. But in some ways can be a little daunting because I don't know exactly what the scope of this game is yet. So like I have no idea how much investment I'm going to have with this game. Like, is it going to be quick, or is it going to be like a whole another long play that I end up going through? So far it seems like it's going to maybe be a few hours at most.
Would you recommend it, like, for, like, say a dollar amount? What would you
Well, see, that's the thing that I'm so curious about, because I bought the physical copy of it, which, you know, it is a
More
digital
expensive.
game, but I just thought it'd be nice. I just wanted to have a physical copy. So I don't know. I'm going to look up real quick to see.
Well, you don't have to look up the actual price. I'm just saying, like,
not the price. I mean, again, I'm only a few hours in. I just want to see like price the like time to beat. You know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Okay, because you haven't beaten it yet, so I guess it'd be harder to put a dollar amount on it. I get that.
So it's saying main story is about 6 hours, and if you want to 100% the game, you're only about 12 and some change. So pretty short game, it seems like. And that's kind of what I'm already getting a feel for, because I've already, in the few hours I've played it, I have looked at over 50% of the map, and nothing's that difficult so far either, which I thought this game was going to be much harder. Especially, like, right out of the gate, I was having a hard time, but once I kind of got a sense for the rhythm, it really eases up. And they even offer a mode where you're not actually having to play to the rhythm of the music, which seems like just antithetical to the whole purpose of the game.
Yeah, which is what you want to do.
Yeah, because it's got a version where instead of like everybody moving to the music, everybody moves when you move, which there's a lot, like, that's a very classic roguelike mechanic.
Is the
like
what?
A lot of very old games will do the thing where it's like nothing happens until you move, but every time you move, everybody else simultaneously is taking action as well.
The whole world begins whenever you're actually moving. Yeah, it goes back to the classic RTS style of movement stuff too. Like,
well, like Desktop Dungeons, Dungeons of Dreadmore, those are the ones that like I immediately think of. But there's like, I don't know, there's so many games, like going way back to like, you know, just the earliest days of making video games. That was a design philosophy to the roguelike genre. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got going on at the moment.
So I guess I'll kind of chime in on that note then. So I'm a sucker for not necessarily nostalgia, but a little bit of repetition during these lull months is what we call January, December and January, because you know you spike hard in November, October, you get all these like good releases, and then they're like, all right, this should last you for a couple months, but then they don't realize I beat that game in like a week or two, and then it's like, well, now what? So I've been looking for an excuse to get back to 14 again. I've been off it since July. I've been sober for 5 months, and I'm back, baby, because this newest update, effectively we finished the main story quest, so to speak. We've the main thing that started since like the beginning of A Realm Reborn, and now it's like effectively a series of hijinks. Like, oh, and now what wacky stuff can you get into with the world that you've saved? Effectively now, right? Somehow we're dealing with the gods of the realm. We're not fighting and killing them, unlike Final Fantasy would make you think that we're going to do. So we have the 12 gods, and we're fighting with them to prove our worth because they want us to do something, and they haven't told us what yet. And the update, we haven't caught up to the point for them to tell us yet. But I do know is that they're busty, thick waifus, and I love it. This most recent one, which was the one who sold me on it, because there's like carving and statues of like all the like gods around the worlds, right? And one of them, Nafika.
Okay, what is that?
Is a Nauphica.
Okay. Okay.
Is this big busty goddess of fertility, which would make sense, like,
of course.
Yeah, type in FFXIV or X1V for the record. That's 14 in French.
No, you keep going.
So, big busty goddess of fertility, right?
You're right.
No, I love that this update, it is like you fight like a series of like 3 or 4 like gods, and 3 of them are like immediate waifu targets. You got her, you got Halone.
Jesus, Dylan.
She's fantastic.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know. Listen, that's why we play video games. And, like, everybody... So before they show her full picture... Listen, that's not Square Enix official art. Don't... Now, I will say that what I love about the Final Fantasy 14 subreddits is that there's a 14 main, and then there's a shitpost subreddit, right? And shitpost one is where, like, all, like, the scantily clad, like, fan arts come out through. But now Main has just been doing it, and there's just, like, no distinction between the two, because everybody's shilling for, like, the big waifu characters. But even Square Enix was kind of in on the joke with it as well, on the trailers that they were showing beforehand, because we didn't get to see if they were fully animating her or what she was supposed to look like. We've only got statues, and we're like... And then the fan art started coming out what it was supposed to look like. So in the trailer, there's a gameplay fight scene, and it shows the back of Nafika, but it doesn't show her front yet, and they're like, quit! Teasing us, Square Enix! So I just love the fact that there's just like this whole big thing. Anyway, so the game has been really fun. I've been going back and playing some classes that I didn't get a chance to, because this is a big, deep, girthy game, and I didn't get a chance to play all these classes. So I went back to play Warrior, which is a known unkillable class. Like, it just has a dummy amount of self-heal. Did a couple balances, yada, yada, yada. But overall, I'm just enjoying it, because now it feels like it's actually doing what I really enjoy narratively, about when you kind of beat a main story. It's like, well, now what? Mm-hmm. And now there's just, like, adventures left to kind of do. Like, right now there's an adventure where we're kind of exploring the pantheon of gods. Like, somebody found a rift into, like, which is effectively, like, this little hub area of, like, where the gods hang out. And it's just like, oh, I found a rift in space here. You guys want to go check that out? We're like, yeah. And then there's another adventure going on where... Final Fantasy 14, there's like 13 other like worlds. Like, consider once upon a time it was one big world. It got split into 13 different versions. So now we have like not different timelines, but like just like worlds where things went different, right? So there's one world where like darkness took over the whole world, and it was like considered a total lost one.
Is Kingdom Hearts in there now? That would get me in.
You know what?
Get me in a second.
If you told me that like. If there wasn't an Ansem behind all of this, I would not be remotely surprised.
An Ansem, a Xehanort.
Yeah.
One of those.
I don't know. The more they start smoking crack, the more it makes a lot more sense, if anything, with that storyline. So we go into this world, and now we're kind of exploring, like, oh, what happens in a world where, like, all darkness consumed of it, and we're kind of, like, balancing some scales here and there with it. Some would say that we're Americaning the South America of this world, because we're going in and messing up their whole hierarchy of power. But that's, like, the hijinks left over to it. I like that it's, like, okay, and if we didn't do this, it's probably totally fine, because our world and most of, like, the big-known universe is saved from the bigger threat that was, like, looming over it. And I think that's good, because I think that a lot of times a game would just end, But because this is a, MMO and there's a server stuff, it's like, well, how many other stories were there left to told? And,
Well, I mean, Destiny 2 has been doing that for so long. Like, each expansion is a story, and it just keeps pushing it all the time.
And I can appreciate that from a narrative sense, but also I just don't like Destiny 2. So I'm only going to praise 14 for doing it, but never Destiny 2. And mostly because 14 keeps getting so many lovely fan critical acclaim awards every single year for being the best MMO, best being 14 fan engagement group and stuff like that, because it's just so wholesome. I go back in there and I'm so bad again, and it's so, that's a whole thing I could do a whole podcast on why our brains suck so bad now as adults with video games, where you'll play a game, you'll feel like you'll be like amazing at it, you're like, you really got it down, and then you'll put it away for a couple months, and you go back and it's like you don't even know how to play the game anymore.
That's the real challenge to every Dark Souls game.
Really? I mean, it is, right? Like, I want to go back and play Elden Ring for that.
It's just the dread of, like, I know there will be Elden Ring DLC.
Yes.
And I know I will be terrible.
Oh my god. And it's just so bad to be terrible again that it's almost just better to play it from scratch, to go all the way around through it. And
like, at least start a fresh character and get, like, a little bit through. It's like, okay, I know what I'm doing again. Now I can drive the big truck I built.
Yes. Part of me really wants to, you know what, I realized, so, because, you know, the beauty of the Souls games is that you can play them, you know, individually, you can play with friends, you can summon phantoms. I didn't play any of it with my buddy Steven, or with you on this one, and I kind of want to do a run-through, or just go back again, and it's just like, let's just fuck around. Like, let's just be a trio, and be, like, way too good for this. Let's play, in fact, let's pick intentionally bad, like, builds or classes to try to, like, win the game through with, like, 3 ones, like 3 Mike Tyson builds, where it's all melee, and you have to, like, faith buff them up to, like, do one good, really good punch. There's a One Punch Man build you'd like about that. Yeah, like somebody made a cosplay where it's like they made the whole thing, and then it's like you do like several spell buffs, and your attack modifier becomes insane, and then you just wind up and then punch, and it like literally kills most things. Like, so Price, that's another incentive because all the real game podcasts I want to do are Price plays Elden Ring, and me and Nathan have to coach him through it. I would
don't go here. Don't go there.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Well, you can, but here's some strategy that you're gonna have to figure out how to cheese. And I know you wouldn't know this, but yeah, that's where my money for the podcast is in my direction. But I got to get Price to play the damn game, and now he's literally going to Colorado to do anything but. So, anyways, other than that, it's been Marvel Snap. You know, the infamous Marvel Snap, the packages that are way too expensive for what they give you. That's been a fun thing, but it's a mobile game, and it's mobile gacha. It's like, you know, a effective core. So
you've been playing it pretty hardcore for a while now. Has it gotten to the point where like you've reached like the end game where you have to like purchase a lot of stuff to
No,
progress?
so I'll say here's my like quick still kind of like recommendation for Marvel Snap is that like you truthfully do not have to, like, it is a very fair free to play card game. They don't put you in pools that'll make it feel like in pools are being like kind of how you separated, like you can only play people of typically your collection level, so there's like separated into 3 and then you got 4 and 5 later. But effectively, if you're in like the dummy pool, you go in early, you're not going to get paired against somebody with like all the cards, right? You don't get to start pairing against people with all the cards until you can start unlocking all the cards yourself.
Okay.
So I always like that little balance system to it. But more importantly than that, I think that it is one of those things where I haven't had to necessarily buy any of it. Like the only times I have was because I was like, okay, I kind of just want to, or this one had like a card deal every now and again. They'll make it so that you can actually buy, not necessarily the card itself, but they'll do like an art style and like a variant. So let's say there's like a Doctor Doom card, and I don't own the Doctor Doom card, but they put out a package with like a Doctor Doom variant where he's like fingering God or something like that, right? And sounds like something he would do in lore.
Well, it reflects back on your previous game you were playing.
Yes. So, you know, we're sitting there, and you know, you can get that. You could buy that package, you get the variant, and therefore you have Doctor Doom now. So it's not like you just get a variant for a card you don't own. You actually get that card. So every now and again, you'll get incentivized for that. Or if they have, you know, just like generally good like packages for cards you maybe already want. You know, most of the money is just mostly art. And most of the time I can talk myself off the ledge by saying, would I really spend $20 for a JPEG? And from that point forward, I just go,
I mean, do you NFT?
No, and this is all for the same reasons why
it's a buyer's market.
Right, why I have a motivation to not sit there and blow a shit ton of money onto this game. The only times I have been like literally, and I make this hard rule for mobile games is, if I'm playing it as much as I could probably play a normal game, I'll spend the normal game amount of money onto it, but I usually don't spend more than that. Now, if I keep playing this for another 3 or 4 more months, maybe it'll get a little bit more. Maybe I'll get a JPEG or 2 or something like that. But
what a normal game amount of money is to me is like,
because you're a deep sale kind of guy.
guy.
Right. So I'll say like a normal amount of money for, okay, a PlayStation 5 game now is like $70, $75 with tax probably.
That's crazy.
It is, which for the record, I hate that. And that's a whole different podcast for another time. But I would say, yeah, at most I would ever spend like $75 on a mobile game. Like, even if I'm still playing it.
But like if this were a game just released with a retail cost, it wouldn't be a $70 retail cost.
No, definitely not. This would be like a $30 game with like
maybe $30.
Right, I would say $25-$30 game with a like decent amount of the collection already unlocked. You'd probably start at like pull 3, and honestly, I think the game would be worse for it. Like if you started at pull 3 and everybody was like, now we're unlocking all these cards because now there's not the gradual progression. You don't get to fight bots for like the first 100 games to build your confidence, and you just beat up on them for making dumb moves. So yeah, I think this truly was the way to go with it. But Price, you're always looking for an excuse to play or talk about a video game that you're playing, since we're here. So
hey, I'm trying to get this schedule, get it regular, and 2023 will be our year.
Much like my bowel movements, we will never have regularity in this schedule.
But kind of like Nathan, I've just kind of been finishing up on games that we talked about last week, which I think we did Wednesday, something like that. So I been finishing up. Well, you can't finish Warcraft 3, but again, Dylan wasn't here, so I'll tell it again. I gave $30 to Blizzard, which I mean, it's almost as good as giving money to like Louis C.K. or the Catholic Church,
Right?
You know, one of those. But I just got this itch to play this one custom game called Custom Castle Defense, which I don't care anything for the campaign of Warcraft 3, but it was funny after like playing it. I watched for some tips on this this one particular custom game, and I watched it online. I was like, does it really look this terrible when I'm playing it? Because when I'm in the middle of playing it, I don't pay attention to like the textures or how the units look or anything like that. And the next time I played, I looked at it, I was like, this really does look like shit. Like, it's impressive how bad it still looks for a remake.
I mean, honestly though, that's like a
That's
aesthetic
part of
that
its
has
charm
very
of it,
much
yeah.
come back into favor.
That's true.
It's something just deliberately looking old and shitty.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Valheim.
But that's not what they were doing. They marketed it as like
Valheim
looks good for
uses,
being a
like
shitty
lighting
art.
engine to trick you.
It does, right? But the pixels.
But yeah.
But they remade this game and marketed it as like this big graphical upgrade. So rather like it's not trying to retain the allure of the originals because they actually took the originals, Warcraft 3 that was created like 10, 15 years ago, and merged it with the new one. So you can't play the old version anymore. You can only play the new version.
I mean, unless you still got the discs, I guess.
No. You can't play online with those anymore.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So if you have the old
servers and
disc,
stuff like that,
I think
right,
it just makes you play the new one.
Yeah.
But needless to say, I still have had a lot of fun with it. I've put in many hours, had a lot of fun. There's still a surprising amount of people that will actually play if you're playing a popular game. So that's not too interesting, I guess. But got my $30 worth. May play some more here in the future. But the big game I just got done playing, and I would love to talk about Fire Emblem Engage now, because I did go out and purchase it from Best Buy. That was a hassle in and of itself, but I won't repeat that story. But it was a hassle anyway. But I can't talk about that because I have to beat my old game before I can play my new one.
Get your games in order, price.
So I just finished for the second time Yakuza Like a Dragon. And I love that game. It was funny, like I was playing it and I was talking to Kelly, who doesn't play games at all. And I was like, I just think it's so cool that in this game you play as mid 40-year-old people. Like you're not playing as a teenager, you're not playing as like a kid, you're playing as an adult person and like going through and seeing it from an adult's perspective, which I love. I mean, Persona 5 is my favorite game, and you're playing as kids fighting against the man.
As an outsider to video games, though, that probably doesn't sound cool at all.
Right, yeah.
It's like, you
like,
are
why?
that. Like,
right.
What fantasy is this?
Because people will play video games, here's the concept, right? They're like, all of us have been a teenager. You know, and in this room, relatively speaking, most of us.
I was for a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. How many of us have been 40-year-old men in this room? None of us have been 40-year-old men. So it's arguably.
But what's more relatable to you? Say like I'm 30. So is a 40-year-old more relatable to me or a 20-year-old? I would argue that the 40-year-old is more.
Well, yeah, and that's
relatable.
And that's the relatability curve now, right? It's like, well, now that we're in the old camp, now it's you can make it 60 and I'd still find it relatable.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely, because they actually have responsibilities.
56.
Because they have responsibilities and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is, anyway, getting off track here. It's a lovely game. Have either of you played it at all?
Which one?
Like a Dragon? No.
I've never played any Yakuza game.
I'm telling you, I would recommend it to you both. It's a meaty, girthy game.
Is that the one where it's like you do like forklift driving and
you
like
have all sorts of dumb mini games,
menial tasks?
Every Yakuza has different mini games in it that can do like a varying degree of stuff. Like I haven't played the old ones. I didn't like the beat 'em up combat, which is what the older ones were. They were fighting games, really, so that may apply more to you. But
just because it's a fighting game.
Yeah, I mean it's not like in depth like a Street Fighter.
No, yeah, I know. It's more like it's a Street Fighter, not in a Street Fighter the game franchise, but like I'm gonna punch you multiple times in the street and hit you with a trash can. Yeah,
but this one's turn based, which I really liked and appreciated because the main character is a dork and he sees himself as a Dragon Quest main hero. So when you go into battle, you like the other people are actually just homeless people, but in battle he sees them as like monsters and stuff like that, like a trash can monster, stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's just the way it balances, like Dylan's favorite word, the juxtaposition of this game.
It's my favorite big word.
I mean mine's esoteric, so I'm right
Shut
there with you. But just seeing like how it's such a serious story where it's about family and like like this drama going on behind the scenes and like some really dark stuff. Then you go to like the other side, which is these stupid mini games where one of them's where you're running a business and one of your best employees can be an actual chicken named Omelet. There's also a side story I did where you go into this place and it turns out it's a bunch of men dressed up as babies who like to be coddled by this nurse person. That's just what they like. And
You say that like it's not a likable thing, Price.
no, it definitely is. But I just like how like there's this serious like I was at the final boss and it's like the tensions are high. It's the last boss. Like you're about to finally get there. And there's this system where it's the summons. You can basically summon in people, but it's people that you've become friends with and can call them in for help.
Yeah.
I called in this crawfish that I had helped come back to its rightful homeless owner, and we became friends. So in this final boss, I called in this crawfish who comes in and slashes people up and poisons them. It's just a super fun game. I really love it. If I gave it a score, it'd be like a 9, easy for me. It's very long, which I'm fine with.
I think tonally a Yakuza game makes a lot of sense for you too, because it's one of those things where it's taking itself just seriously to let the beats hit, but not necessarily seriously enough where it's not going to be fun with itself. Like, that's just Yakuza brand.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
Which I liked a lot and had a great time. But next week, hopefully, I will be... maybe I will have beaten Fire Emblem Engage by that point. Maybe not. But now that I've got a fellow Fire Emblem lover, it'll be a very enjoyable time. It'll be weird actually being able to connect with somebody else rather than you two talking about like Dark Souls or Elden Ring or whatever.
I do gotta say though, I'm not gonna be playing Engage as it comes
Really?
out.
I'm actually with you.
My thing with these sort of games,
You have to get it on sale.
like, I mean that is a thing that I would prefer doing, but also they already have a schedule for DLC releasing.
So you want to play the full package?
Yes, because I was looking at the DLC and it said that it adds story stuff like months from now, and if I finish the game now, I'm probably not going to very easily get back into it to play the DLC as it comes out.
But it also gives you a chance to like replay it when that DLC comes out. Like with Ashen Wolves.
I'll say this with like the Fire Emblem house, like other than 3 houses having 3 like paths to like replay, you know, for replayability and
that are all
aspect,
very different.
Right. That are all like different in their story and element links. With Engage, this is kind of the big thing I was looking at with reviews because I was eyeballing it because I don't dislike Fire Emblem. It's not my favorite franchise in the world, but like 3 houses really did it for me. And then looking at Engage, I was just like, okay, it looks like we're going back to like older roots. We're getting away from the Persona stuff that they introduced that I really enjoyed. But now that we're getting... So if you're on the flip-flop of that... And all the reviews that were like staggeringly polarized. They were like, yeah, if you were looking for more 3-house stuff, then you're like going to kind of be disappointed with this because we're going back to more classic stuff with that. But if you enjoy the classic stuff, you're really going to enjoy this.
It's funny you say that because I messaged him just last night on the side and was like, I just love the fact that people are saying like there's less social elements and they're mad about it. And I just messaged Nathan, who we've both been playing apparently since GBA days. And I love that. The fact they're just fleshing out the tactics side a lot more and less time just wandering around, watering plants with the professors and stuff. Like, I don't care about that. I'm there for tactics. I don't need to schmooze to this big-breasted professor and try to do that. Like, I don't.
You're losing me by the second.
And that's totally fine. I understand.
Right.
I understand
Yeah,
that.
now there's a degree to which I think games don't respect your time. Like, it's like, oh, there's all this stuff you can and probably should do to like really get the right edge on like the content that you're playing, but it wastes your time immensely to do so. Like in 3 houses, like all the fishing stuff and everything, it's like, yeah, you should be doing this because it yields experience to your professor so that you can then like, you know, progress your characters way better. But man, it takes forever to do like, you know, 60, 70 catches in one go. Like, there's just so much time wasting going on. So I would very much like to see that stuff go away. And that's one of the reasons why I think 3 Hopes was so much more fun, was because I didn't have all that BS mini
that's
game time waster stuff.
The Musu game, right? Mushu? I think it's Musu.
I think it's Miso.
No, it's the Warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah, the beat 'em up, right?
Yeah.
You just call it Dynasty Warriors. Everybody knows what we're talking about from that. On, so
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so, and I definitely think there's a moderation to it where, although I enjoy 3 houses, I will grossly concede that there's sometimes where we spend too much time waifuing it. I think that we could cut back on that.
The
and focus
tea
more.
parties. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
I'll concede that it was
the tea
me.
parties that specifically had short periods of time in which you had to pick the exact right answer.
Right.
Which means that literally everybody, unless you just didn't care, everybody looked up guides and would just pause the game and look and be like, oh, this answer, because it wasn't intuitive either.
No, it wasn't like something we learned or they've
Like,
discussed
you
before.
you didn't know what answer was right for them based on who they were, because I tried like that at the beginning and never
They threw tea in your face for it. How dare you not recognize that I actually am a Pisces without telling you. Yeah. Overall, I wouldn't be opposed to like trying out Engage, because I did play some of the older ones back then. I mean, I didn't play like them a whole bunch. It was ones where like I randomly stumbled into it, and then I was just like, yeah, this is fun. Like, it's a tactics game. I can get behind this. But at the same time, I also feel like that they became much less memorable for it. Like, I could tell you I've played like maybe 2, maybe even 3 Fire Emblems before, 3 Houses, and I couldn't tell you a damn thing that happened in most of them, where I was like, I think there was a kingdom. I think there was actually 2 kingdoms or something, and there was 3 games about it. And I played those 3 games.
That's Fates.
Yeah, the Fates ones.
Yeah.
I was like, I played those. Couldn't tell you a fucking thing.
Well,
about
the
it.
stories are pretty much
I know,
the same.
I know with Fire Emblems it's very JRPG interchangeable, but that's kind of like my frustration with it, and why Free Houses sticks is because I like a narrative sense, even if we have to go through a little bit of a narrative slog for it. Now, if we cut back on the slog, keep the narrative tight, and then let the tactics game play itself out, all right. But I feel like Fire Emblems in general has these like 3 balancing scales going on, and they keep not being moderate in any one of them.
They've got this triangle of things that they're doing.
They do, and instead of going 33% on each side, they keep going 60, 20, 10. And
well, again, I really like. I feel like I need to sell you guys on trying out 3 Hopes, because it is all the narrative stuff.
I just
without the downtime.
I just do not like that gameplay at all.
The
I own
Dynasty
that. I
Warriors
own
style
that
with
game.
it.
I
Yeah.
tried playing it, and just the Dynasty Warriors combat, like or the gameplay, just does not do it for me personally.
yeah, like I think it could make a lot of sense in Fire Emblem's way, because it's kind of, I mean, they kind of build it that way in the tactics engine. You just turn it into like a smash against instead of just animations.
Well,
but
as I was playing through 3 Houses, knowing that I was going to play the Dynasty Warriors remake of it later, I could see, like, as I was, like, running, like, fighting the big monsters and stuff, it's like, I know exactly what these are going to fill the archetypes of in the Dynasty Warriors version of this game. Like, I can see all these assets are going to be reused. I'm going to be fighting these things in that version of the game, and, I mean, that's 100% what happened. It's, like, so well meshed that it almost seems like they would have been deliberately done, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's very much like they just knew they were going to be making this Dynasty Warriors re-envisioning of the storyline.
So here's my pitch, and the same one, and I tried doing this for Persona 5 too, when they did the beat 'em up one, and I didn't even get through.
Strikers.
I didn't get very far into that one, which is a shame, because I'm like, I'm sure there's a cool story to it. But here's my pitch to game devs who are listening, especially Fire Emblem game devs. If you're going to do a beat 'em up and stuff like that, you have to bring in Lu Bu from Dynasty Warriors, who was a mounted spearman, and if you played Dynasty Warriors, you'll know. And he was like an ungodly hard one. Everything else is beat 'em up easy. You kind of feel like a god taking out like trash mobs. And then they brought in Lu Bu. And Lu Bu would just kill you. And every now and again, like every 1 in 3 campaigns, I don't know if it was randomized or what, he would come in and he would fuck up your whole day. Like, his whole job was to say, you're winning? All right, I'm going to even the scales. And it was just Lu Bu. If you bring in Lu Bu, I'll consider it. Make a Lu Bu DLC where they hire directly him. I don't want like a fake Lu Bu. I don't want your version of Lu. I want Lu Bu from Dynasty Warriors grossly copy-pasted into your game to beat everything up. And I'll play it for the quick chuckle. But anyways, I think that's going to be our show for this evening, guys.
Works for me.
Evening, afternoon, morning, whatever time of day it is anymore. If you like the content we're doing, make sure to give us a big heart, because we're on Spotify.
Is that what's on Spotify?
And YouTube.
And this I always forget if this
Oh
it
my
makes
God,
YouTube.
Joe.
All right, well, if you know the YouTube one, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the big old thumbs up, hit the bell. Where's leg?
You
There we go.
you got it, leg.
Kicked his leg. You can't see it, but I did. And yeah, just appreciate the hard work you're doing, guys. We play video games and then talk to you about it.
It's hard work.
Because you want us to.
That's the only reason I do it.
Oh yeah, for the content.
You know what? And if we get one favorite or like on any of these videos, Price will have to play Elden Rings as a Let's Play with me and Nathan the next time we get together.
That's our goal.
One favorite or like, doesn't matter from who, just as long as it gets one, then we're gonna do that the next time we get together. until then, guys, let us know in the comments below what you think. Do you think Dynasty Warriors should make a comeback? Is Lubu a DLC worth exploring? Are big busty waifus good at great things for marketing? Yes. Until then, we'll catch you next time.
Catch you on the flippy flip.
Next week.
Yep. Okay, bye!